I'm very much well known as the EU guy.
Ben Gallant is a European at heart. For him, membership of the EU is essential for Britain to remain a modern cosmopolitan country, which is why the Cambridge University student has joined the campaign to defeat the Brexit movement. It's an issue that has polarized the country for months. With less than a week until the referendum, polls put the pro-Brexit camp ahead. Will Ben's efforts help to turn around the vote and convince his fellow students and neighbors that their country needs to remain in the EU? Ben doesn't really have any time for politics and sorting and distributing flyers. His final exams for his chemistry degree here at Cambridge University are just a few days away, but there's not a moment to lose on the lobbying front.
We receive £1 billion of EU funding to further education in this country every year, and all the way through to peace. So 71 years of peace in Europe, mostly down to the EU. So there has been this lack of information on the EU referendum, on the arguments for it, and there have been several big outcries for where is all the information? How are we meant to vote on this when we don't know? So here is the information, hopefully, straight in the pictures.
Ben, Alice, and Darcy are members of the Cambridge for Europe student group.
And our posters.
They've just received some new lobbying kits from the nationwide Pro-Europe campaign ahead of the referendum on Thursday.
Look what Stronger sent me.
I've got one as well.
They've sent three. They've sent three. No, hold on. Hold on.
Ben already have one. They didn't say who it was addressed to or by whom.
The fight for votes is now entering its decisive phase, just when the students should be poring over their books. Just as well, the library is open around the clock.
I was in the library by 6 a.m. today, actually. So then I do my 3-hour stint and then go back, have another bit of breakfast at my home. I live in a house very nearby, which is really handy, to be honest. And then come back, more time in the library, lunch, more time in the library. You get the feeling.
Ben needs good exam results if he's to continue with postgraduate studies at Cambridge. But this evening, he's putting his revision to one side to go out canvassing with politician Natalie Bennett.
Hi there, can I interest you in a Say Yes to Europe poster? No? Don't worry.
The outgoing leader of the Green Party of England and Wales is giving a speech at the university to encourage students to register for the referendum.
We very much celebrate free movement of people in the EU, whether you get an Erasmus scholarship and go and study in Rome for a year, whether you take advantage of Germany's zero university tuition fees and go and study in Germany, or maybe au pair in Paris for a year.
Unfortunately, her talk an hour later is poorly attended.
Then if we think of crowded schools and hospitals.
She was preaching to a room of 20 students who have dragged themselves from a library and a few sort of Green voters in Cambridge, so turnout wasn't great, which is never ideal, and especially when you've got a party leader.
The next morning, Ben is up at the crack of dawn. Last night, he and his housemates were out on the town and got a little carried away. The others are still asleep.
So are your flatmates still sleeping?
Most of them. And will be for a few hours, I should imagine. They got in even later than I did, and will not surface for a few hours.
But you're already out and about?
Yes, out and about, out and rearing to go.
And what do they think of you? I mean, you're sort of the only one early in the morning getting up.
They think I'm absolutely mental, mostly. So I study chemistry and live with a house full of science students, so I am very much the only politically engaged one, really, and so they are very confused by my ardent interest in politics and the world in general, and they like to stick to their science, which is fair enough. And right.
Ben has always felt a commitment to Europe, but it was the announcement of the referendum that inspired him to become politically active for the first time in his life.
Yeah. Let's go get him. I can do it again. Sorry, I was
He's off to the city center, where a range of pro-Europe groups are holding an event. Their primary target group is younger voters. The organizers know that they tend to look favorably on the EU. Therefore, they want them to register for the all-important vote.
Wonderful. Get roped in. Hiya. How are you? Yeah.
Among those attending the event is a former member of Parliament.
Moved from fascism and dictatorship to democracy.
But he's largely preaching to the converted here. And where have those young voters got to?
Thirdly, through the single market.
A street festival proves to be a bigger draw than the Pro-Europe show. Plus, Ben and his friends face direct competition from a street stand for the Leave the EU side, organized by Cambridge alumni.
Hiya. Yeah, we just thought we'd come and see what you had to say.
I don't think this project for a one system Europe that doesn't have very much accountability or democracy is the way forward for us. I think we should be like Switzerland, like Norway, like Australia, like Canada, independent, self-governing countries that cooperate.
And having to take on quite a lot of EU regulation anyway.
No, I
to
don't
get
think
the benefits
I don't think we
want.
should take on anything. We want to see Europe doing better. We want to see young people doing better in places like Greece, places like Italy. We want to see a more open immigration policy. I'm actually from Australia. We have people from all over in this campaign. We have people from Europe. We sense the mood is changing, and we think that Brexit can be a pivotal event, you know, a sort of Berlin Wall moment even.
If Britain left, it would be very negative for the right-wing mood that is currently emerging in, all over Europe. And I think that's quite a dangerous thing almost. And for that reason, I think it's very important that Britain actually stays in.
Alice and Ben are worried about the increasingly hostile tone of the debate. Plus, polls show the Leave camp recently extending their lead over Remain. So the activists have taken to social media to mobilize their fellow students. They're asking people to write down their arguments in favor of Europe before posting them online.
Do you want to go and stand on the stairs, holding the board and put it out?
This message is typical. A united Europe is stronger. And which self-respecting student these days would make a statement without a Twitter hashtag?
Brilliant.
And once that prospective voter has left, Ben approaches the next one.
Why? Can I ask? Lots of things, really. Anything in particular? Bad for trade. Bad for trade? Bad for...
But apathy is widespread. Voter registration for the referendum among students at Cambridge is just 50%.
Most people don't.
In the afternoon, they drive to one of the Leave campaign strongholds, Peterborough. It's just an hour's drive away, but it's a different world compared to the enlightened corridors of Cambridge. They reckon it's best not to say they're from the elite university. They're wary of a potential backlash.
Voting to remain in the European referendum? No. Excellent. Would anyone else like to...
Not the most encouraging of starts.
Next slide.
Can I ask which way you voted? Is that no? Not at all? Can I interest you in a leaflet on why you should vote in the European referendum at all?
We don't really know the true facts. You've got one party saying one thing and another party saying another, and they're only telling us what they want us to know. They're not telling us what we need to know. You know what I'm saying? So, on them grounds, yeah, I'm going to vote out.
Are you going to be voting out? Can I ask why? Yeah. Staying in Europe? Are you I've been told to stop trying to convince me to stay in. I'm voting out, and don't make me irate.
The main topic of discussion is immigration. Peterborough has a high proportion of new residents from Eastern Europe. Many of the local residents are afraid of being sidelined.
We don't mind Polish people or any people, it's just the numbers that are coming in, and we haven't got the hospitals or the road structures to accommodate it.
To look at things other than immigration, obviously I understand immigration is probably the biggest issue, but things like that the EU has done for the environment, for example, I don't know if this is an issue that's important to you, but it's important for me. Like, it's unequivocal. The EU has made our beaches cleaner, our air safer, it's protected our natural habitats.
I'm actually really looking forward to it.
They may not have been able to change anyone's mind, but the students are still satisfied with their little trip to Peterborough. A number of people did at least listen to them. With the big day now less than a week away, it's time to assess their social media campaign.
We've got literally sort of, well, upwards of 100 photos now of people saying I'm voting in, and there is that crowd mentality of, oh, my friend is voting in, all of my friends are voting in, why on earth would I vote out? So I'd like to think we've picked up votes there as well, which is good.
And there are similar grassroots activists, not just in Cambridge, but across the country. They number several 100,000 in total.
This is something that's so important, and I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's a vote for your future, and I think that's completely true. And so in that regard, there is no question about the fact, like, yeah, it needs to be done.
Do we have like a we've got
Following the shocking news that a Labour MP had been murdered, possibly because of her pro-EU stance, campaigning on both sides was briefly suspended.
Because they're going against. So we need to get rid of
The Brexit campaign, the Leave campaign, have really come out over the last week with the immigration argument, which is touching quite legitimately in most cases a lot of hearts up and down the country, and that may well be winning votes, and that's a concern for our side.
The students will be lobbying away right down to the last minute, trying to bring sober arguments into this bitterly divisive debate. For them, the murder of Joe Cox has underlined the importance of preventing further polarization as Britain prepares for a historic decision.
Guys, let's do this for Europe.